2 years ago, my first family and I were celebrating our 4th annual Cape Cod weekend. I am one of 4 children, and like many families, with extended in-law groupings and such, we were struggling to find a time when we could all be together. So this weekend in October was dedicated just to the Mole Queens. But this particular year, I had a lot going on in my personal life. And I found myself unable to function in my normal role as organizer. Plus, to be perfectly honest, I had grown tired of the role. Wasn't it enough that I had initiated this family tradition? I grew tired of the eye-rolling and general resistance every time I tried to suggest something that we could do. It was as if someone always had to take some kind of an issue, almost as a default response, and I just didn't have the energy for it. Unfortunately, as it turns out, my younger sister was also tired of playing co-cruise director. The result of our joint mini-strike, however, proved to be somewhat deleterious to the spirit of the weekend, and things kind of unraveled. No one could agree on what to do, and when, and for how long, and, well, you get the picture. The weekend ended in petty bickering. Later, I told my brother that I just didn't have it in me to step up this year. He was compassionate, he understood, but he said rather resolutely, "But that's your role, and we need you to do it." I came back the next year, with a renewed resolve to take back the leadership role. Despite the eye-rolling, despite the pushback, one ritual I had instituted in the very first year was to have a thematic story that my family would share all together at the end of the weekend. There were 3 nights, and on the 3rd night, we'd start with the oldest family member and move down to the youngest, and all tell a story about the same theme. So one of the themes was a favorite teacher. Another theme was a favorite home. And that actually had gone fairly well, despite the eye-rolling and resistance. So this year, though, I thought we would start the weekend with a new ritual. And we would go around just to open it up and clear the energy from the negative energy from the year before. And each person would say something they were looking forward to, a bun, and then also maybe something that they were concerned about, just to set some boundaries. And so we started, and it was going well, because somehow it was really working to just let people get things off their chest right from the beginning of the weekend. And luckily, no one said, "I'm really dreading your rituals, Aunt Jennifer," which I was prepared for. But we were able to move into the weekend in a way that we were holding the understanding that conflict was going to happen over those 3 days. And it was inevitable, because that's what happens in human relationships. You have conflict. So we had a lovely time, and I'm looking forward to it's coming up in a couple of weeks. We're moving through with our family, setting our rules, using our rituals, but because we are a culture that does not wish to air our dirty laundry with others, like I just kind of did, it is easy to buy into the myth that everyone else's family has a better time of it, or that since we do not choose our family, as Tony talked about last week, it could be that we feel that we drew the short straw somehow, and we ended up with the wrong family. We can't choose our family, and we can't choose our world. Our mere existence was never voluntary. It was never a choice. So to whom, then, Do we really belong in all this voluntary and involuntary relationship? It is a profound question. The answer is complex and has many layers, many circles. I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world. I may not complete this last one, but I give myself to it. I circle around God, around the primordial tower. I've been circling for thousands of years, and I still don't know. Am I a falcon? A storm? Or a great song? Widening circles. I belong to myself. Can you make a little circle right here? I belong to myself. I belong to my family. Make the circle just a little bit bigger. I belong to my community. Make it just a little bit bigger. I belong to the world. And all the belonging is lived through relationship. Now I'm going to ask you, I mentioned in the Good Shepherd this week that we would be doing a body prayer. So I know it's unorthodox to have the prayer and to ask you to stand in the middle of the sermon, but we're trying a lot of new things here, which is what I'm really excited about. So I'm going to ask you to rise as you are willing and able in mind, body, and spirit. And I'm going to teach you this body prayer as we explore this idea of relationship. We're going to connect it to breath. And it has to do with these widening circles and these relationships within the widening circles. So the first gesture is simply coming here to the self. And this is where you're centering yourself. If you do yoga, you're in mountain pose, your feet are about hip distance apart, right? And you just feel your breath right here. Catch an inhale and an exhale. And the next gesture is just this. This is what we give out to others, to our families, to our communities, to our world. And then we receive. Pull it in. And then out. Out to the universe. And then back to ourselves. So we're going to place an inhale and an exhale with these gestures and do it 3 times through. Inhale, exhale. Out. Inhale, bringing in. Exhale, out to the world. Beautiful. Our faith community lives into relationship by voluntarily creating and committing to rules to a covenant of relationship. Our community belongs to those great mysteries of life. I circle around God, around the primordial tower. We circle around God. Around the primordial tower, that which has existed from the beginning. I've been circling for thousands of years and I still don't know. I still don't know. We've been circling thousands of years and we still don't know. Together in holy community, we approach that very mystery of life, the deeper meaning of existence. And we can only do this together effectively when we know the rules, when we have a covenant, when we voluntarily commit to that covenant. But what happens outside of this circle? Our foundational units of relationships, or what we know as our first families, often struggle, like mine did, to have right relationship. Rev Tony points this out in the Good Shepherd this past week. He says, some families of origin are generally healthy, functional, loving, and supportive. Some families of origin are not. Unfortunately, some families of origin are mostly unhealthy, dysfunctional, unsupportive, hurtful, and even emotionally or physically harmful. Many families have both their healthy and unhealthy characteristics, and most, I believe, fall near the middle of the spectrum between perfect and harmful. Indeed, we come together with family experiences right here in this room that fall on that spectrum from perfect to harmful. And we do our darndest in this sacred space, in spite of those less than perfect imprints on our minds and hearts, to covenant. Some of you call a family a unit of parents or a parent and children, while others are single by choice, while others are single or fractured because of loss, while others right here among us might be in search of a new family. Our contexts are all different and more importantly, ever-changing. Whether your family is voluntary or involuntary, though, I invite you to live into your faith by weaving some of the rituals of our worship into widening circles. For example, prayer in worship. We have a time to acknowledge hardship in the beginning of our service here, where we pray. We hold in our thoughts and prayers. And those tend to be prayers of hardship for folks experiencing loss and hardship. And then we share prayers of praise and adulation at the offering and thanksgiving. And finally, looking to the future with our benediction, we say prayers of hope. Is this ringing a bell for you? Right? So we have prayers of joy. We have prayers of hope right in our worship, and we have prayers about grief. We have that ritual in my home of the rosebud thorn. And it's something that it's a way that we can connect after a long day when our minds are scattered. So now I bet you might know what's coming. I'm going to ask you to just take a moment to close your eyes and catch your breath, and you could even do the body prayer sitting down, whatever feels good for you. But I'm going to say some words, those words, and just allow yourself to breathe in and out and see what images, words, names come up for you. Joy. Hope. Grief. Now, I would like for you to take a moment or two and share a joy, a hope, or grief with someone sitting close to you. Maybe it's someone you don't know, maybe it's someone you do know. And when you hear my chimes, you'll know that it is time to stop. Please share together. A joy, a hope, or a grief. And make sure that if someone's sitting over on the edge, that everyone has someone to share with.
It is my joy to see you. Same here. And it's my hope that the project that we're about to continue on will bring you some level of peace.
Okay, thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.
Did you get my email?
Oh, I sent you an email this morning. Just my concerns.
No,
I'm prescribing.
okay.
Do you want to tell me your concerns?
I can actually give you a copy of it. But, yeah, just a couple of things.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Would anyone like to share with the larger community, a joy that you heard or shared. I thought Ben was going to chime in.
I'm Ben.
Hi, Ben.
Nice to you guys know me.
I'm going to thank you later.
Well, I'm very joyful. In a few weeks, I'm going to be celebrating my 6-year anniversary with my girlfriend. I'm hopeful about the new job that I just started. It's already so much better than the last job. And I'm grieving over my brother, who has disowned my entire family for no real reason whatsoever.
So let's do together, let's make some signs for what we heard from Ben. We have, and then finally, I would take more, but I'm mindful of the time, and I know we ran late last week, so I don't want to be that ministerial intern that goes over in her first sermon. So notice what happens when we begin to share with each other. The energy shifts. That's what you can do out in the real world. You can shift the energy. I encourage each of you to try a rosebud thorn ritual this week with whomever you call family. Or you could share the body prayer. Awakening the spirit in our communities, in our families, is hard work. But as my brother told me after our ill-fated weekend, that's your role. And we need you to do it. Listening to your spirit, listening for spirit in our families. That's your role. And the world needs you to do it. May it be so.